Hey guys, how's it going? It's been a while since we explored AI agents. Now I've been posting about different AI agents, but we haven't necessarily explored the proper set of agents that we can create using CrewAI. I'm starting this playlist where we will create agents for different roles in a startup. And we will start by a very basic agent. So for people who are new to this series, I have the entire course on CrewAI. It's free. You can go to the link in the description and pursue the course for yourself if you don't know the basics. Over this playlist, we will create these automations using agents. So let's say a research agent, a product management agent, a social media agent, and so on, that will automate tasks that a person in a startup would typically do. I am very excited for this series, and let's jump right in. Our first agent is going to be the research agent. We want to start very simple. Over time, as we understand the concepts better, we want to expand it to cover more use cases. This is going to be code-based implementation. Since CrewAI is a Python framework and it requires you to write code, but you don't necessarily need to know exactly how every line of code works. It's actually very, very simple and straightforward if you follow along. We're going to be using OpenAI or Ollama in case you want to use LLMs, which we will definitely use. But in case you want to use open source LLMs like Llama 3.1, we'll use that in this project. Or you also have the option to use GPT in case you don't want to run these large models locally. So let's go to our Visual Studio Code. And again, if you're not familiar with Python Visual Studio Code, it might make sense to go through the tutorial for CrewAI once so you understand how it works. First, we will go ahead and create a folder. I'm going to say YT agents for YouTube agents, where we will create all of these agents. And then this will have requirements.txt, which is essentially the packages that we will need in order to run this project. I'll push this to GitHub as well. And then I've also documented some steps here with respect to the packages that we will need in order to build our first research agent. So I'm going to create a folder that says agents, and I'm going to create a new folder inside this. Inside of this, I'm going to be creating my main dot where I will write my Python code. Python is a programming language and CrewAI is built on top of Python. But before we start writing our code, let's create a virtual environment. The reason why we create a virtual environment is because we don't want to install all of these packages across our computer. When I install any of these things, I want them to be only specific to this project and not my entire computer. So that is why I will set the environment here, which will create a virtual setup inside of my project where whatever I install only stays in this project. And when I delete this, it gets removed from the project and it's not installed globally in my computer, which can cause versioning or multiple issues. So now that I have my environment created, virtual, I need to activate it. So I have the step here. Again, I'll share these steps with you because it's likely that you have not done this before. So when I activate this, you can see now my environment variable here. Whatever I now install will be inside of this environment only and not in my entire Mac or PC. Now that is done, we need to install a few packages. So CrewAI is what we need in order to run the agents. Python.environment is so that we can get our environment variables from .env file. Then LangChain and LangChain community are multiple different methods that CrewAI uses to process these different agents. So I'm going to do pip install all of these. Pip install will install all of these packages in your environment. We also need CrewAI tools for the research agent because we will be using the Serper dev to perform our research. In the meantime, do Command Shift and P, which will pop something up like this and look for select interpreter. Once you see something like this, click here and then select my environment. What I'm telling Visual Studio Code here is that when I run any of my code, run it by using the packages inside the environment that I created rather than using the global environment or global setup, because we've installed it only for our project. It will continue to fail if we don't do this step. Now that my environment is selected, let's install CrewAI tools. CrewAI is only a framework to run the agents, but if you want extra tools like Serper dev, you also need the tools package by CrewAI. Now that is set up, we can go into our main file and start writing our code. I'm going to be keeping it very simple. First, let's go ahead and import a bunch of different things. Import OS, which is where we will do the operation of copying or getting the links to specific files and so on. And then we also need .env, import load.env in order to load the environment variable. So whatever passwords I store, I don't obviously want to hard code them in the code because when I push it to some of you might be able to see it, which is not safe for me to share. So we will import the .environment file where we will store all our details like OpenAI API key or Serper API key in this scenario. Then we need agents, crew, and tasks from CrewAI. Go ahead and import those things as well. Then from the tools, we will need the Serper dev tool because we will need to perform search in this project. We are going to be doing research using Google data. The agent will take the topic, go to Google, look for the articles in that topic, and then do research based on that. We need two more things from the LangChain standpoint. The chat OpenAI, which will allow us to connect with OpenAI per se. And then we also need Ollama package here such that we are able to run these models locally. Now, this is from my old project, so I don't know if this will work, but if it does not, we'll make changes as we go. Then we need to load the environment file. And then from the environment, we need to get the Serper API key. Now you would notice that my environment file is empty. So I'm going to be creating a new variable that says Serper API key. And I'm going to be securely storing my API key here. So I've gotten the API key. You get the API key by going into serper.dev. After you create an account, you will be able to see API key option here, and it will give you access to 2500 free searches. Put your environment variable safely here, and then you can refer those here without actually putting those keys here such that they get leaked out. Now we will need to get or initialize our search tool. We imported Serper dev tool from CrewAI tools. We basically need to initialize this and put this into search tool such that we can use this. Now let's go ahead and define our agent, and I'm going to be pasting the code here. So we're creating a function that says create research agent, which accepts a variable that says use GPT true or false. If we want to use ChatGPT, then we put this as true. If we don't want to use ChatGPT and rather use Ollama function here, then call the model that we want to use. Now in this case, I actually want to use GPT-4o mini for running the model. We also need to create an agent whose role will be research specialist. Goal will be to conduct thorough research on given topics, and then backstory that they are an experienced researcher with expertise in finding and synthesizing information from various sources. Verbose true will enable us to see what is going on in the agent execution stages here, and then allow delegation at this point of time is going to be false because this is a very simple agent. If we create multiple agents, then these agents will be able to talk to each other, in which scenario allowed delegation will be true or false depending on what we want the agents to achieve. Then we assign those tools to this agent. So search tool is assigned, and then LLM is depending on if we pass GPT as true or false. We want the model to decide if they want to use Ollama or if they want to use chat OpenAI to run the agent. Now that we have an agent defined, we will go ahead and also create a task. This task is what the agent will have. In this function, we will pass agent and topic. The agent will be the agent that the task will be assigned to, and the topic will be the topic that we want to do research on. And then we finally need to build a crew in order to run the agent. We will define a new function that says run research, which will accept topic if GPT is true or false. The agent is going to be the create research agent, which will return this agent, who will be research specialist. And then we also need to create a task which will be with the new topic and the name of the agent whose task this is going to be. In the crew, we need to assign agents in the agent list here, and then task in the task list here. And then result is going to be crew kickoff. So whatever is the result of kickoff is going to be our final result. In order to run the Python code, we'll create a main function that says welcome to the research agent, and then use GPT input. Do you want to use GPT? Yes or no. If we pass yes, it will use GPT. If no, it will use Ollama. And then topic of the research, and then finally run research. Once it has all the details, it will basically run the research and pass the topic if the user passed yes or no to the function here, which will essentially pass these details to other sub functions. So let's see if this agent works. In order to run this code, you can see there are no errors because we installed all we wanted. One thing that is missing, and you should have probably noticed it, is that we don't have the OpenAI API key. And for that, you need to go to your OpenAI account and get the OpenAI API key from there. Again, I'm not going to be sharing the screen here because I don't want to share my key here publicly. So go ahead and create your OpenAI API key and then add the key in here. Inside your .environment file, just do OpenAI API key and then put your key here. Just go ahead and do that. I'm going to pause my screen and add the key here. Okay, the key is now added. From this point, we have everything that we need to run this. So let's go ahead and see if there are any errors that we encounter. It is possible that we will encounter errors. Let's just go ahead and see what the errors are, and then we can fix as we go. You can see the execution happening here as I click the play button on the top. At this point, there are no necessary errors, but I think Ollama will run into problems later on. It's because this is white and not teal, just like these other functions. It means something is not right. And then you can see the code is running. Welcome to the research agent. Do you want to use GPT? You're going to say yes. The topic for research is going to be AI agents top 10. And when we put this in, you can see there was some error that we ran into. Let's quickly debug and fix the error. I already know why the error happened. There's a field that we need to mention that says expected output, which we didn't mention. It is mandatory as of the recent update from CrewAI. I'm going to be adding expected output that says a detailed summary of research finding, including key points and so on. And then when you run the agent now, it's going to take some time to start, but given that we have cached some of the info, it should be faster than before. So let's do that, and you can see it's working. It is looking at the SERP API key, which we've shared. Look at Google for these topics, and you can see it's doing research on Google now, figuring out what the top AI agents are, and then passing each of these articles to the model as it goes through the execution. It consumes a lot of your OpenAI API tokens. Be careful when you put all of these keys here, because this is going to cost you a lot of money if you have not configured this correctly. I'm going to let this agent run in the background, and I'm going to show you the result once it's done. Actually, it's already done, and you can see this is the result that we get. Comprehensive summary of top AI agents in 2024, and several AI agents stood out. GPT-4, Project Astra, Auto GPT, Super Agent, and so on. Then there are the key features of these agents and trends of these agents, and then impact on industries and so on and so forth. So the agent is working, and now you can run this agent again by clicking the play button here and pass any topic that you need in this scenario. And I'm going to be also looking at the Ollama setup in a little bit, but let's say we pass top niche e-commerce products to sell in Mumbai. I'm going to be very niche with this, right? And the agent can then look up Google for these items and then respond to me with respect to what it found. Server dev is free for 2,500 queries, but post that you have to add some credits in your account in order to continue using it. So that's a heads up that I wanted to give you. But you can see it's working with the OpenAI API key. Now we're going to be running it via Ollama. Now that we have the basic agent running, we need to start using Ollama for this execution. And for that, what you need to do is you need to set up Ollama in your local system. If you don't know how to set up Ollama, I'll add the link to the setup in the description. You need to go through the initial steps to set up Ollama. Once you have Ollama installed and set up correctly, you can open the terminal. In here, you can do Ollama run Llama 3.1. So if you already have Llama 3.1 downloaded in your PC, this will directly run the model, which will enable you to use a local LLM instead of OpenAI. So when I say hi, I'm essentially now using Llama 3.1. Since it's already working, I'm going to go back to my code. Instead of doing yes for use GPT, we'll do no. So let's go ahead and run this. I don't know if this code will work for Ollama. I'm just going to try if it's working or not working. Ensure that Ollama is running. You should be able to see a llama icon in your taskbar here. I'm going to say, do you want to use GPT? I'm going to say no. And then topic AI agents. Let's see if we are able to make this work. So it's waiting for some time, which kind of makes me think maybe the code is correct and it's going to run after all using Ollama. I don't have logs to see if the request is really working, but I can say for sure that using Ollama is going to be relatively faster. So you can see that it is working. I understand the task at hand. The issue is that search the internet with search query AI agents doesn't exist. These are only available actions. So the issue with using these local models sometimes is that they will not respond to you in a specific format that, let's say, CrewAI would want, right? So when you create a response, there is an expected output that the model or the agent should return. Sometimes when you use these models like Llama 3.1, they will not respond in specific format because they are not as good as GPT models. So either they will give incomplete output or they will give bad output, which will essentially result in the code breaking like this. So I will not recommend using Llama 3.1 for agents as of right now. But you can see the same agent would work seamlessly. I'm going to stop by doing Control C, and then I'm going to run this code again. And notice how the agent runs correct when I do GPT-4o mini, which is something that I've specified here. I'm going to say AI agents 2024 in healthcare, right? And now notice how the agent is working better. You can see it's able to look up the queries as well, as opposed to when we call Llama 3.1, the smaller version. Now it seems that, okay, it seems I've configured Llama 2 here. So let me stop the app and change this to Llama 3.1. Hopefully now it should work. So maybe that was the problem, but try running it again to see if that fixes the error. I've noticed that Llama 3.1 is actually a lot better than Llama 3 when it comes to consistent outputs. So I'm going to be trying this anyways. Let's do AI agents 2024 and let's use instead of Llama 2. And let's hope this time it's able to respond to us in the correct format. And you can see it's working. So Llama 3.1 does actually work better as opposed to Llama, which essentially did show the error per se. So it's looking up the results and then it's also looking up the search queries. Obviously, it's not going to be perfect. It's not as good as GPT-4 mini because I'm using the 7 billion parameter variant of Llama 3.1. Obviously, the 70 billion parameter is going to be a lot more interesting, but that's going to be also more expensive and heavier to run. And you can see it's now talking about the next great chapter. So it did generate the response, but it's not as good as what GPT-4 would generate. Let's try the exact same thing with GPT-4o mini and see what the response looks like then. So let's use GPT and then let's say AI agents 2024. The response based on my initial review per se was a lot more detailed as opposed to what with Llama 3.1 right now. And it's also a lot faster. So while you can use agents and build a research agent using the local models, it's not as good as the response you would get from GPT-4o mini, especially if you are using the smaller versions of Llama 3.1. So ensure that if you're using these open source models to power your agents, you at least have the bigger variants of these models to run these queries. This is how the response from GPT-4o mini looks. It's a lot more detailed than with the Llama 3.1 model. You can also change the expected output here. If you want the response in JSON or specific format, you can put that piece of detail here as well, which will ensure that the model is responding to you in a specific format. But like I said, I just wanted to build this very basic agent to begin with. And then when we start building more agents in the future, we'll build more parts to this series where we will talk about different sorts of agents like product management agent, social media agent, and so on. You will start to understand the correct framework and also understand what are the things that you should pass in the variable. So you'll understand a bunch of different things with respect to how to get good responses, how to generate properly formatted responses, how to make agent responses cleaner, and so on. This is it for this specific video, and I hope you guys learned something new through this, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you and have a nice day.